What's poppin', y'all? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Weekly. I'm your host, Pee Wee the Plug, 1/4 through the wire, #1 Knicks fan in the world, aka Mr. Know-It-All. And today's episode is going to be a first, something that I'm excited to do. I think this is one of my favorite stylistic videos to do, and it's the mailbag episode. I basically threw up a tweet letting y'all know I'll be gone for most of the week in California. So I wanted to make sure that I was able to have some videos stocked up to release while I'm going for work. And I had y'all submit questions. I love these type of videos where I can get y'all questions or mindset, mind frames to see what y'all curious about and try my best to answer them and satisfy you guys with my answers. And then you guys will obviously react, respond in the comments or in tweets, and we can have some type of dialogue. That's like my favorite style of video to do for you guys. So I appreciate everybody that submitted questions. It was plenty. A lot of them were good. So we probably will do a part 2, part 3, and some way make this maybe a weekly thing every other week, couple times a month. We will see. But this is the mailbag episode for NBA Weekly. The first question we have is from my boy Suhas. He asks, do you see value in teams like the Pacers, Trailblazers, and other such teams continuing to be mediocre, or should they blow it up so they can go in a clear direction? That's a great question, my brother. And in some cases, there are some value in being mediocre. And the reason being is because you have, like the Pacers, for example. I think you put two good examples together, the Pacers and the Trailblazers. I think for the Trailblazers, there's not much value for them to be mediocre. And I do want to preference that we're talking about just straight basketball. As far as profit, economics for the owner to make money, sure. Being mediocre for the Trailblazers is getting their owner money every year because they're in the playoffs. That's more tickets you can sell. You can sell tickets at a higher level because the team is good. The fan base is more eager to come and watch and support. You have a superstar like Damian Lillard where he can sell jerseys. And I understand from that type of perspective, of course, he's going to generate revenue like that. But just from a basketball standpoint and also from a revenue standpoint as well, I don't think there's much value in being mediocre. And the reason being is because it gets old at a certain point, right? And I think that's the current state of the Blazers, is that NBA fans are a lot more smarter, even the casual fans, because they have guys like me all over the internet and YouTube and podcasts to educate them and put in their mind, like, what's the next step? What are you doing as an organization? And I think because of the more casual fan is getting more educated, they can start to see things too. Like, they're right. Like, we have a solid team. We're mediocre, but like, will we ever really win or compete or have a legit chance? Even in the years where it seemed like Portland had a chance or they made it to the Western Conference Finals, they got swept. And it was like, it was never like, oh, Portland is right there. They're about to, no. So because of that, and because if you look deeply into that roster, they're a little bit on the older side. Dame isn't really young anymore. He's in his prime, but he's not like entering his prime. CJ is an older guy. He's not a young, promising player anymore. He's kind of like an established. They're kind of established veteran players who are in their prime. They're not necessarily old, but they aren't young, and they don't have anybody that's emerging either. So because of that, because there's not a lot of money either, because Dame and CJ are maxed out. You know, there's just not a lot of money for them to make that work. So how do they improve? You can't. This team can't get better. The rest of the league is getting better. So to me, there's no value or anything for them to gain as far as just basketball. So for me, I personally would make some changes. Would I blow it up entirely? That's a tough question. Depends on what I would be getting back. You know, if I could get a Ben Simmons or somebody like that, then yeah, I may blow it up. Because in my thinking, if I was the Blazers, right, and I was a GM, we tried everything we could with the Dame and CJ. It just isn't working. It's, you know, it just didn't work. We're a smaller market. We max them out. We develop them into be great players. But the rest of the league is better, have bigger markets, bigger budgets, and they're more attractive for free agent destinations. And we have to start it over and hope that we can get us a star through a trade, maybe draft some homegrown talent and put it together and strike gold like some other teams have done, hence Milwaukee. But yeah, I think if you trade Damian Lillard and get a package of revolving around a player like a Ben Simmons, you have some young talent already, like Anthony Simons and whatnot. And then you would still have a CJ McCollum with trade value. You would still have a Robert Covington with trade value. You would still have a Nurkic, maybe not crazy trade value, but you have things that you would be able to move. If you trade Dame and CJ, whatever young packages or pieces you get, they're probably going to struggle. So you'll have picks of your own, and plus the picks you'll get for trading them. And I think you'll have a jump start. And then you have a guy like Ben Simmons who, despite what the media and the situation is going on, if you put him in a situation where it's built around him, he'll go crazy. And you'll be able to put the pieces and puzzles around him to get him to his fullest potential, which is, I think, something that Ben Simmons needs to reach the heights that we all think he can reach. Now, real quickly, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but on the opposite side, the other team you mentioned was the Pacers. Now, in the Pacers case, I kind of like where they're at. They're not wrong for being mediocre because you have some youth. Karis LeVert is a nice young player who is like about to start entering his prime. So I think there's something to gain from that. Sabonis isn't old. He just started entering his prime. Brogdon is a little bit older because he was a multi-year college guy. But I think you have some youth within that mediocre team that can gain some experience from some playoff games and playoff series, and you just let that youth mesh, grow, and get some experience under their belt. But again, even in their sense, there is going to be a time where the Pacers are going to have to make some decisions because, like the Blazers, they are just a middle of the pack team, and you start to realize that, hey, we're just okay, and are we going to settle for being okay? But the one difference between these two teams is you have a guy like Karis LeVert, who is a little bit younger than the Damian Lillards and the CJ McCollums, that you can kind of hope get some experience and development and growth in the playoffs. But again, middle of the pack teams I've never been a fan of. I either want to be contending or I want to be rebuilding and getting myself in a situation to potentially, be contending. And the only way I'm satisfied with being in the middle of the pack is if I have an Atlanta Hawk young team who is that middle of the pack is part of our growth to hopefully ascend to contention. So thank you for the question, Suhas. Great start. My boy Randy Marsh says, do you think it will be an active trade deadline this year? Seems like a lot of organizations have to make decisions with big names. How do you think the Zion situation will turn out? I'm a guy that's always optimistic about the trade deadline, hoping that we have a lot of action. And because this year is a little bit open, especially on the Western Conference side of things, with Kawhi being out, Jamal Murray being out, hard to dictate when Klay will be back. I heard Christmas. Then today during media day, I heard sometime in January. So it seems like the Lakers have a bit of an opening up, depending on what type of Utah Jazz team will get in the playoffs. Is this their year to get over that hump? We will see. But when you have a little bit of an opening like that, I can see teams potentially making some moves to try to solidify themselves as the top dog. And then also out east, you have a lot of teams who are around the same place. So, Miami, if there's something available for them to feel like it can give them an edge over the Bucks or the Nets or something like that, boom. And then injuries and different things. And like you said, there's a lot of teams that have to make a lot of different decisions. So that'd be interesting. A lot of guys like, do we want to re-sign this guy? You got like a Colin Sexton. Are the Cavs fully committed on paying him? We don't know. That could be something that we see transpires during the trade deadline if they feel like we don't want to go that route with paying him. As far as Zion, how do you think the Zion situation will turn out? I think the Zion situation is going to turn out like the Anthony Davis situation. I think Zion is going to be there for a while. But I think if they don't reach high, crazy success, the moment he has an opportunity to leave, he probably will. I saw the media day interview where they asked him about the stuff that we've been hearing and the rumblings over the offseason. And I like Zion. He's, like an innocent guy or kid to, when you hear him speak or whatever. But he's a terrible liar. And it was very cringy to watch him answer those questions because, like, his body language, his face, and he just made it obvious that some of the shit we heard was true. I'm not saying everything we heard is true, but he definitely, him and his family probably did have some sort of frustrations, and him and Griff probably don't have the greatest relationship. But Zion is young. They have full control over that man contractually for a while now, so it's very hard to picture him really forcing his way out anytime soon. His answers, even though I think it was a bad job of lying, but he did lie and take the professional route. So he knows that he kind of has to sit there and be there, and the minute he can get out and request a trade, he probably will, unless, like I said, they reach some top tier success during the next couple of years. They have some pieces there. It's just about David Griffin and that front office getting some consistency and the proper pieces around what they do have. And it's been a bad start, but they still have some things to work with out there in New Orleans. Thank you, Randy Marsh. My boy Rob Fritz with a Ja Morant Avi says, of the teams you consider playing teams, which teams do you think have the most to gain and which team has the most to lose? I have two teams that are the exact same answer. There's probably a lot of teams we can put right here, a few teams. But the first teams that come to mind are the Pelicans that we just talked about and the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? I think both of those teams could gain a lot from making a play-in. You think about what the Timberwolves have gone through over the last few years. You think about the things that Karl Anthony Towns has communicated in his media day interview about the inconsistencies from the coaches, the different players he's played with, and how quickly they come and they go, the coaches and everything that's going on as a dysfunctional organization. It would be important for them to make a play-in this year. It would give something for those fans and those players like Karl Anthony Towns to have something to build on. And I think that's all players, fans, and onlookers like me. That's all they want to see is something that is progressive and is making steps in the right direction. And Minnesota hasn't been known to do that. They'll take a step in the right direction, then they'll take 3 steps back. They made the playoffs with Jimmy, then that blew up in their face, and then they went back to being the bottom feeders of the West. I think this is a year that's critical because they went out and made the D'Angelo Russell trade. They got Anthony Edwards, the #1 draft pick. You have Karl Anthony Towns, who talent-wise is a top 3 center in this league. They have, Taurean Prince, Jaden McDaniels. They have Malik Beasley, things that are decently in order to work with and to compete at a certain level. When you look around other teams and you compare rosters on paper, there's really no reason that the Memphis Grizzlies should really be outplaying the Timberwolves by that wide of a margin other than like injuries. But just on paper, there's not that big of a gap talent-wise. So I think they can benefit from that. Another team, again, like I said, the Pelicans. It would be good for them to start winning games because when they got Zion and they had the AD package with Lonzo, Ingram, Hart, it looked promising. But they've been disappointing. And I think to stop all of this Zion shit, the answer would be to win, right? Especially for Griffin. He's on a hot seat. You bring in a coach, you have to fire him after 1 year. That's never a very good look. They have Willie Green now. It would be a totally good look for them to start winning. And then I guarantee the Zion shit will go out of the window. Because like I said, they have 2 young all-star caliber players, Ingram and Zion. You have Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Josh Hart, Valanciunas is there now, Devontae Graham, Kira Lewis in the wings. You have things there. So you show a step in the right direction, and now maybe some veteran players in the next couple years are like, man, the same way Chris Paul was like, man, I need to go to Phoenix. You get you somebody like that in the next couple of years and say, man, I should go over there and rock with those young guys, and now we can turn them up. And it's sometimes just that simple. You show some promise. You get a free agent who is like, man, I'm a little bit older, but I can still contribute and help and elevate a team. They got some young players, boom, you bring, and it's just that fast. You have a playoff run, and now everything's changed. The whole momentum of the entire organization is different. So I think it's important for the Pelicans to have a step like that in the right direction to clear up a lot of different things, and it will help them tremendously. So those are my two teams. And then, of course, if you don't make it, the Timberwolves. Now the Carpenter Town shit comes back out and it's like, how long is he going to stay there? Nothing is working. And the same thing with the Pelicans. If they continue to lose, of course, it only makes it easier for Zion to have a reason to want to leave. Same thing with everybody, you know. So those would be my two teams, Rob. Next question comes from Parker Cole, who has an Anthony Edwards Avi, so I'm guessing you're a Timberwolves fan. He asks, when are you looking at when you are looking at how a team is constructed, what do you value the most? Defense, perimeter shooting, experience, depth, etc. For me, it's very simple. I'm looking at talent. I'm looking at the top talent on the team, because talent trumps a lot of different things, right? Like, it doesn't matter how cohesive and how much the players on your team complement each other. If they're not high-end talented players, it probably won't matter. But you have some cases like the Lakers where we're looking at them on paper and we're like, how is Russell and LeBron going to mesh? We're not sure how they're going to mesh, but all of us as viewers and NBA fans know that they're going to win games with that, because at the end of the day, there's a certain level of talent on that roster that's going to just win you enough games. You know what I mean? That team can scratch in 50 wins off top just off of the talent. Same thing with a team like the Brooklyn Nets. Certain teams just have a certain amount of talent where you can just guarantee high-end wins. So I look at that. And then when you start from there, you go down the line of, you know, do you have the proper role players who can come in and fill in those holes and those gaps, like a Wayne Ellington, Russell Westbrook, LeBron? They aren't going to be the high-level elite three-point shooting, so you have Wayne Ellingtons and guys like that you hope can come in and fill a hole like that. Trevor Ariza, perimeter defense, boom. You know what I mean? Shot creation from a Kendrick Nunn, THT, Melo, you know, rim protection from Dwight. You start to look at that, and once you get as much balance, it's like, okay, that's an elite team. So that's the best way that I would say that I'll break it down. A little bit of everything is probably the best mixture for a team. But I start with the talent, and then I drop down to see if that talent can be somewhat cohesive. Do they have enough of the role players? Because those are significant. And, you know, is there versatility on those rosters? Sometimes it is. Sometimes you have just overpowering amount of talent where some of that other stuff that I just named don't even matter. But I'm going to start with the amount of talent that a team has at the top. So shout out to Parker Cole. Great question. We got my boy Phineas Roman. He asks, thoughts on Utah? Is this the last year of this team together? Is this their last real title opportunity? Love the videos. Thank you so much, brother. I think this is, man. I really do think this is. The only reason that this might not be at the same time is because we know that they're not going to get rid of Donovan Mitchell. He's too special of a talent. It means too much to that team for them to try to trade him or get rid of him. And then when you look at Rudy Gobert, and the reasons that they don't really win is because some situations he's played off the court. That's no disregard to his talent and what he does do, because defensively he anchors them and puts them in position to play high-level basketball. But if he is some of the times the reason why they're losing series, when it's time to trade him, plus that contract, who's really going to take on that? No contract is unmovable or untradeable. I'm sure somebody is would take it. But you also don't want to get pennies on the dollars. So I think they would want to maybe change it up. But because you don't want to give up Donovan Mitchell, and because Rudy might be very hard to trade based on what you would be getting back, they may push it out as long as they could. But I do think that the days of this Utah core and regime are coming very limited. And that's without knowing what they'll do in this upcoming season. Obviously, if they have a crazy run, that would quickly change the narrative. But I like this team, and I think they do have a chance this year. The Rudy Gay, Eric Paschall, That makes a lot of sense. Donovan Mitchell fully healthy, Mike Conley, Jordan Clarkson, 6th man of the year. There's something there, but they do have to get over that hump before the team says, hey, we've tried as many times with this roster as much as we can. It's time to make some type of change to give us a different look. So we will see. Thank you, though. Gusty Henry asks, best advice for someone trying to get into the world of sports media. Gusty, I think this new thing of the sports media with the podcast outlets, YouTube, and just the internet has opened up a lot of doors. So the sports media world is becoming, highly saturated, oversaturated to a certain extent. So I think the first thing you would have to do is make sure that this is something that you're truly passionate about, because you're going to have to fight to get all of the space, credit, and attention to have a name in the sports media world, because it's so many people trying to do it every single day. It's a new show, new podcast, new YouTube channel. They all are offering high quality things. So what makes you stand out in a world or in a league that's overpopulated or oversaturated? And you are going to have some self-evaluation, some self-reflection, and you're going to have some hard conversations. And once you pass that part of knowing that this is what you want to do, you now have to ask yourself, what's your best trait? Are you a guy that's like me, who is very verbal and can sit in front of the camera and one take and just talk like this? Are you a writer who should be writing articles for a publication like Bleacher Report? Are you an interviewer? Are you an analyst? Are you a scout? Are you an advanced metrics guy? What do you do best to offer the sports media world, and how are you going to separate yourself from the rest of the pack? You know what I mean? I think that's the important thing to establish mentally as you're trying to get yourself in here, because once you have those certain things figured out, the easier to be. If you know that, hey, I'm a column writer, you know what I mean? Like I'm a beat writer, or I'm a journalist. If you know that from the start, you already know exactly what you need to be doing. But if you're not sure if you're comfortable on camera, you don't know if you want to be a beat writer, or you want to be a scout, or you want to be an analyst, or you want to just be a YouTuber, you want to have a podcast show. If you don't know where to start, you're going to be a little bit everywhere. And then 3 years in, you're going to be like, damn, I was wasting all that time trying to be a journalist, when my real passion or my real gift is to sit in front of the camera. So figure that out, and the quicker you do, you'll know which direction to take. And then it's all about putting in that grind, putting in that work, and outworking the next man, because that's essentially what it's down to. Once you do find that, is putting in that work, making sacrifices, and being a legit student of the game on an everyday basis, and never feeling satisfied with where you at in your basketball knowledge. Always having a hunger and being eager to learn anything new about the game. So that's my advice, Gusty, for you and anybody else that's trying to get into the sports media world. It's all about grinding and being honest with yourself and working super, super hard to be better than the competition that you're going to face to make a name in the sports media world. So I hope that's a good answer that can help you. Thank you for the question. That's an incredible question. Last but not least, we have Mitchell. He asks, what is the Cavs season looking like? What is their ceiling? What is their floor? Can they make a playoff push? What possible moves are necessary for that push? This is a funny question, because I think the same way of the Cavs. It's so many questions with this Cavs roster, because there are bright spots. Like, anybody that knows me knows I'm a huge Darius Garland fan. I think Colin Sexton is a good basketball player. There's obviously some value in the potential of Isaac Okoro. Evan Mobley was an incredible pick. Jared Allen balled out when he played for them after the trade. There's something there with Larry Marketing. What exactly is it? We're all waiting to find out and trying to figure that out, but there's something there. And you even a Dylan Windlers of the world. Like, I'm excited to see how he carves out a role for them. But it's tough, because their ceiling is like knocking on the play-in. Like, being a play-in team is like the ceiling. Other than that, I don't really know how far they can go in the East, because there's a lot of good teams that got better. We're talking like, I don't even know where to put the Bulls. We did something on Through the Wire where the Bulls were like my 7th seed, almost 8th. And look how good they had of an offseason they had. So when you compare the Bulls, Celtics, Knicks teams that could potentially be on the bottom half of the playoff standings, those teams on paper wipe out the Cavs. The Cavs aren't even close to those teams. So I think their ceiling is like a play-in. Their floor, same thing. It's like looking outside of the play-in. It's around like 11, 12, where they're better than the bottom feeders, but they're still worse than the bottom half of the Eastern Conference. What do they need to do to make a playoff push? I don't think a move is out there for them to just become a playoff team. I think for them going forward, it's important to figure out what they want to do with Colin Sexton, though, because you're going to get to a point where you have to pay him, you have to pay Garland, and then before you know it, Evan Mobley's going to have to get paid. You already just paid Jared Allen. Lauri Markkanen got a decent amount of money. Isaac Okoro was a lottery pick, so at some point in a couple of years, he's going to have to get paid. So you got to start making decisions before you pigeonhole yourself and tie yourself up financially with a mediocre team. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to have a below average team and you have no cap room or no cap space. So I think they have to figure out what's going to happen with Colin Sexton. Are they confident enough to pay him? Are they going to move him? Figure out exactly what his value is. And I think that'll be a step in the right direction of figuring out where they want to take this rebuild. But I do like Garland. I like the versatile, big size front court to help the miniature backcourt. But is that a legitimate backcourt that can help you compete in the Eastern Conference when you look around at the other teams? I'm not sure it is. Again, it's not to discredit Colin Sexton, but I don't know if he is what the Cavaliers may need when you look at that team in totality. But maybe he surprises me and a lot of other people, and we'll be able to figure that out for the Cavs. But I don't see them making a playoff push, Mitchell. Not this year. I think it's a little too soon. But I do think they're doing some good things over there and are treading into the right direction to potentially in the next couple seasons do make some type of play-in playoff push. But it's all about them figuring out those things I just spoke about with Sexton and whatnot, and then everything else should fall in place. I appreciate everybody that threw in questions, whether you made this episode or not. Like I said, we had enough questions where we can potentially do a part 2, part 3. This is something that we're going to bring into the regular season for the NBA, figuring out how frequent to do it. But like I said, I love these type of videos. I love all of the input and the dialogue that I have with you guys back and forth. Definitely leave me some feedback in the comments about the different opinions, different questions, your answers to some of these questions, anything you agree with that I said, anything you disagree with. Y'all know I love and open to all type of dialogue, whether you see the way I do or you don't. And always leave a like. If you're new, subscribe. As always, I am the host of NBA Weekly, Pee Wee the Plug. I will see you guys next time. Peace. I'm out.